Hey guys, it's Dean. Welcome to the Better Man Podcast. Today's episode is a member interview. I'm going to be talking with Andy T. Andy is a physical therapist based in Austin. He also integrates Pilates into his physical therapy practice. He does something called animal flow, and then he started doing manful yoga after that. And I think this is a really cool story. It's unique because Andy is a guy who comes from a physical fitness background. That's his profession. But like many of you guys in the manful yoga community, he wouldn't consider himself an athlete. And he mentions this in the interview, but he was always the last kid picked in gym class. So I think this is a really good interview because Andy talks about how he's been able to use little bits of progress, little practices, little sustained effort over time to create dramatic results. We talk about how just a few months of manful yoga somehow magically lowered his cholesterol by 100 points when he had been struggling with it. And there's just a lot of great concepts and mindsets in here that I think are going to be really helpful. And you're going to be able to see these in practice with how Andy practices his wellness and shares it here. So, guys, I hope you enjoyed this interview. Thank you for being part of the Manful Yoga community. I hope this inspires you to be a better man. Hey guys, it's Dean. Welcome to the Better Man Podcast. Today I've got Andy T with me, and we're going to talk about a little bit about his health and wellness journey. So, Andy, thank you for coming and doing this.
Okay. Hello, everyone. And thanks for this opportunity to share, for me to share my journey doing yoga, working on improving my fitness and health. So I'm happy to be here.
Cool. So Andy, you're a physical therapist. You also have a pretty unique practice in that you integrate physical therapy with Pilates. And so you're a guy who's coming to this who has a lot of fitness knowledge and experience, which I appreciate because then you actually give me feedback afterwards. And you're like, you could actually do this if you wanted to target this muscle a bit more effectively, which is awesome. So it's a bit of a different perspective than a lot of the guys who are coming into Manful Yoga have. So I guess what initially got you interested in health and wellness?
So my parents are both radiologists. So
Okay.
very early on in life, I knew I would want to work in healthcare as well because I saw how they were able to help people just sharing their experience and knowledge, just clarifying some of the questions people are having, how helpful that would already be. And I wanted to be like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then physical therapy seems to be a good area that I only need my hands and I only need my brain, then I can help a lot of people. I don't really need a lot of equipment and stuff.
Mm,
But then also, I noticed that being a physical therapist, I can help people to not only get rid of sickness, but also to return to activities they enjoy and improving their well-being and quality of life. I feel like that's a very meaningful thing that I could do as a physical therapist. So that's my why of how I got into this. So
yeah. So I'm curious. So growing up, did you enjoy working out, or what did you like to do physical fitness wise?
So I wasn't very physically active. In fact, I would be the person during the PE class, the teacher would like to split up the class to do competitions and for people to pick which kids are gonna be on which team. I will usually be the last pick, and I
Mm,
didn't really do much exercise. And my parents did
mm-hmm.
send me to the YMCA to learn swimming, but then that's more for survival kind of things. It wasn't like to learn a skill, but
Yeah.
then not like wanting me to be competitive in
Mm-hmm.
swimming. So I didn't growing up playing sports or anything like that. Like played a little bit tennis for fun, but then it was mostly after starting PT school. I learned about how important exercise is. Then I started to be more active.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's a pretty common story that we hear about in manful yoga. A lot of people who are doing manful yoga were the last kids picked in PE classes, or they didn't really enjoy playing sports. I hear this all the time that I wasn't a sports guy, I was a theater guy, or that I was into other stuff, and so. um, and it's cool hearing people, who don't have that experience in physical fitness come into physical fitness, and then start to be successful there. It's always interesting to me though, because those people still don't really identify as fitness people. They're like, yeah, I'm not really a fitness guy. And I look at them, I'm like, well, you're working out 5 times a week, and you're in really good shape. So I think you are a fitness guy now, but there's still this identity thing that hasn't happened. So they don't think of themselves as fitness people. So, anyways, just calling out those guys who are listening and thinking, oh, that kind of sounds like me.
I think I probably still wouldn't refer to myself that way because even though I do more exercise and commit more hours a week, my intensity is still not really pushing to that high of a limit or intensity. So I
Hmm.
do Pilates, now I do yoga with your program, and
Hmm.
I do animal flow, but then a lot of those are for me working on my range of motion, my mobility, and
Hmm.
just me competing with myself to see how I can move better. But then it wasn't like breaking a record of how much more heavier weight I could lift or how much faster I could run.
Yeah.
So that's like I think my perception of my own fitness is a little bit different. It's not like reaching the limit that
Yeah.
counts.
And that's very common. That's very consistent again with a lot of people in our community. It's not like the competing with yourself, and I think that's a good mindset to have. That makes it a lot more sustainable. And from what I understand, you actually do a fair amount of training on your own. So when did you? So I want to talk about animal flow because I know that's kind of like the main thing that you do. But I wanted to go back to Pilates. How did you get into Pilates, and what did you enjoy about that?
So in college, I had an elective class that the professor brought in a PT specialized in Pilates. So
Mm,
she um, led us through a lot of exercises that we could do. And that was how I learned about Pilates. I felt like, oh, this could be really beneficial um, to improve posture, improve core stability, and everybody needs core stability because, like, lower back pain, there are studies saying, like, pretty much everyone at some point throughout their life, they are gonna experience lower back pain at some point. So it's
yeah.
crucial. So it's good to know that, but then just the schoolwork piling up, so I didn't really look further into it until I
Hmm.
started practicing early on, meeting my current boss, and he basically talked me into doing the Pilates training myself because how much I can actually help the patient.
Hmm.
And he made a very big point that in PT, most of the exercises we give the patient seems to be very isolated, only working on one muscle at a time or working on one joint at a time. But then Pilates is different. It's a whole body thing, and that helps people to focus on how they position their body, like the awareness and the mindfulness part the exercise is very different. So he said, if I get that under my belt, I can provide way more value. So
Hmm.
that's how he persuaded me into doing the training. And that's been helping me a lot with how I treat my patients. And that's also how I got this job and eventually moved to Austin. So
Got it. So can you explain what Pilates is? And I think you talked a little bit about why it's beneficial, but maybe just give people like a quick, 30 to 60-second explanation of what Pilates is.
Yeah, so Pilates is an exercise method developed by Joseph Pilates in early 20th century. And he utilized a lot of different approaches he learned growing up, battling his own ailments. And so there are a lot of martial arts aspects of it, a lot of different body works gymnastic components involved in it. But then his philosophy is about the control of the body. So before
Mm.
this exercise system is named after him, it's called contrology because
Oh.
the system is focusing on the control of the body, always being aware of how you position your entire body, how you control your movement, and then be aware of the body, be aware of the position, the alignment, the posture, and so yeah, like I said about this, the big focus about Pilates is about the control. It's about the awareness of how you position your body when you move into different planes, different angles, and then focus on the alignment and engagement of the core and the muscles. So, yeah.
Okay. Cool. And there's a lot of and I've done my wife is really big into Pilates. She likes the mega former Pilates. That's her thing. She does that 3 or 4, sometimes 5 times a week. And whenever I go, I think it's great. I think the way that it reminds me of manful yoga in some ways because there is right that very intense focus on muscle control and muscle engagement, and you're doing things that you just feel your muscles working in a way that you don't normally like. For me, as someone who lifts weights and does calisthenics and who used to play sports, it's getting all of those muscles that need to be strong and are going to help you stay injury resistant to injury, but there are things that you just don't do on a normal basis. So Pilates is kind of like manful yoga or yoga in general. Some, I won't say yoga in general, but um, kind of like manful yoga, kind of like some other, isometric workouts, but it's just forcing you to do those exercises that you need to do to be able to move well and stay healthy. So yeah, big fan of Pilates.
I'm I'm glad that you actually brought that up, and I think that was a big reason why I decided to join Menflow Yoga was because of how much you focus on the control, the alignment, the proper muscle engagement,
Mm,
and because yoga was coming from a spirituality practice, so a lot of times the physical aspects, the control and the movement that might not be emphasized enough.
hmm
And that occasionally we have some patients saying they got hurt from doing yoga. A lot of time that was because of not having enough awareness or attention to how they move their body. So the fact
mm,
that there is a program not only specific for guys because of the alignment and flexibility um, difference, but then also a big focus on movement, on engaging the muscle, on the alignment. I feel like that's really important. So that was a big reason why I joined. So.
yeah. Okay. Well, I'm glad that stuck out to you. And yeah, I think, people think that yoga is safe because it doesn't involve weights or it doesn't involve like high impact. But the reality is that you can do anything. And if you aren't paying attention to how your body moves, then there's potential for injury. And, I know that you've just said it, that you see a lot of people in your practice who have injuries from yoga. My wife has mentioned that. Marissa, she talks about that. Usually it's from doing things like passive forward folds too much. They're, which ironically, a lot of people say like you do yoga for lower back issues. And then, but if you're not doing it properly, it can cause lower back issues too. Um, so I like, anyways, I don't know if I had to choose between traditional yoga and Pilates, I think I would lean more to Pilates, just because it emphasizes more control over uh, muscle, more functional strength, more functional range of motion. But yeah.
I think a big thing is, I think that's what I try to do myself is every one of us should diversify the type
Mm-hmm.
of exercises we do. Um, so, in the world of, it's probably mentioned more in fitness. Like we briefly talk about it in healthcare, but then in fitness, people talk about to address the different biomotor skills we have.
Hmm.
So, in order to function optimally every day, we need mobility, we need strength, we need endurance, and we need agility to um, react to emergencies, and we need coordination. So we have different aspects of how we move our body we all need to take care of. And the fact that there's probably no single exercise system or a movement system that can address every single thing. So, how are we able to fulfill our need to be good at all the other, like every single aspects? We need to diversify the types of exercises we do. So, yoga maybe doesn't focus on cardiovascular endurance as much or on strength as much. So, lifting weights, that's how you can build up your strength, and running or swimming, that's how you build up your endurance, and that's how they can complement yoga, and vice versa for people only doing running, only lifting weights, but then they also need the flexibility and the range of motion so that their muscles can function properly and they can avoid overuse injury and they can recover faster, and so adding yoga can be beneficial in that aspect too. So,
Yeah. So, how do you think your Pilates and yoga practice have complemented one another? Why do you
so,
think? So, if you had to say why you are stronger than people who just do Pilates or just do yoga, what would you say?
so Pilates, especially the traditional choreography, they don't push people into end range much. They
Mm,
focus on control, so a lot of time it's staying in the middle of the range of all the movement because we have the most control. And a big focus about Pilates is the control. And then yoga, on the other hand, has a flexibility focus. So a lot of the poses are challenging the people to position their joints at the end range. So we feel more of a stretch, we feel more of an elongation. So that's in that aspect, it's already very different just by how you move your body into the position. So in Pilates and in yoga, your body will be in very different positions for different reasons. So that way it will be beneficial for mutually beneficial to each other.
got it. Um, okay. So, thanks for that. And then, so something that so before you started doing manful yoga, you were doing something called animal flow, which I don't know if I can. It's a lot easier to just go to YouTube and search animal flow and and watch the founder, Mike Fitch, just do like a flow. But it's a really cool practice. It's a very dynamic practice. I think there's a ton of very controlled movement, but not by any means easy movements. I don't think they're all beginner friendly. I think you have to like build up to doing it, but I think it's a really cool movement practice. So can you tell me about your starting animal flow and how that fit into Pilates?
Yeah. So animal flow, just back to what you said earlier, it's a quadrupedal movement training means most of the exercises are on the ground with hands and feet on the ground. So that way we are kind of moving like an animal form versus a
Mm,
human form. Because a human form is like standing on two legs versus animals are 4 points on the ground. So that's a different. And by doing that, you are position your body in a position that's you are unfamiliar with. So just by moving in that position, that challenges awareness, challenges your control, and also make you be mindful, paying attention to how you move. So that's how the animal flow, the name comes from. It's because of that aspect. But then
hmm.
it's the exercise is mostly on the hands and feet on the ground. So it's challenging a lot of the upper body strength. And that's when I encountered animal flow by seeing some videos on social media online. I noticed that by doing Pilates and other ways I work out, I don't really have enough muscle strength, especially in my upper body. So when I saw that, I felt like I really needed that. That's how I got into it
Hmm.
initially. And like Dean said earlier, the strength requirement of it can be a little bit higher compared to some of the other exercises. So, in terms of incorporating that into my physical therapy practice, a lot of time I would pull out single exercises for the patients to do, and so that's the neat thing I like about Animal Flow. It's you can pull out pieces that can help you work on shoulder mobility, help you work on endurance, help you work on upper body strength. But then a lot of those pieces, they if you arrange those in certain sequence, they can become a choreographed longer flow,
Mm.
and that's how people can design the choreography together and then do the flow together. So the community aspect of that exercise system is very valuable, and that's one of the reasons why it got popular too. So
Hmm. So when you were starting Animal Flow, how often do you do it now, or how often were you doing it at your peak in terms of how many workouts per week?
so the baseline would be once a week.
Okay.
And then now it's more because I'm in the middle of preparing for my certification. So I do it probably 4 or 5 times a week, but it's not always hour long. Sometimes it's just drilling certain techniques. So
Hmm.
some days would be shorter session, just working on one thing, versus some days I might dedicate a longer time to do a longer flow. So.
Hmm. So okay. So what helps you be consistent with that? Especially when you were getting started, what was the what was the motivation to do it? Especially when you didn't feel like doing it. What do you think helped you want to keep doing it consistently?
I think for me was to see other people. And what I mean by seeing other people, it's not like I want to look exactly like somebody else. I think it was the inspiration of seeing how other people move, and that made me realize there's a lot of potential that I could improve.
Mm.
And so that I think it's by seeing how much I can improve, and then also by having my knowledge as a physical therapist. I know those are possible. I just need to do the work.
Yeah.
Then that got me started. So, and then the thing is another thing very important, which Dean actually mentioned in some of his other podcast video and some of the other things he shared within the program, is to be aware of how your body feels. And maybe today after the session, you feel like you can hold in a pose or do a certain movement for much longer, you have better control, you feel like you have more range to work with. It's about paying attention to those little things. Um, that was what kept me to be more consistent in practicing animal flow, I would say. So,
Mm.
uh, yeah.
Okay. So paying attention to the details
Hmm.
of the movement. How long do you think it took you to notice progress? Like how long do you think it was like was it a month or was it 2 months until you noticed like, oh, I'm getting better at this? Or maybe you noticed you were getting noticeably stronger or muscle building. What were some of those results or what were some of the things that you noticed were happening?
So a lot of time, the changes actually were quite immediate. Like within one
Mm,
session, I could notice. Um, because I think that's related to me. What challenges me the most a lot of time is coordination. If for a lot of people, if they don't have enough range of motion, they might need more time for the range of motion to be developed. And same thing with muscle strength. But then coordination happens with control. So control is just like you just need to introduce your brain the right type of stimulus, and then you do it. And with a few reps, once the brain clicked, it happened pretty immediately. So for me, a lot of time, the changes all happen pretty um, pretty immediate. But then, like you said about noticing the longer term changes, I did have some range of motion issues I need to deal with, and for those would take me about like 2 or 3 months to be able to see like, hey, I can push way farther and I can stretch farther in
hmm.
certain moments. So it's different aspects takes different times.
Yeah. Did you use any other complementary practices to improving mobility, like, either manful yoga, or were you using massage therapy or foam rollers or other tools like that?
So there's another exercise system we use in our physical therapy practice. It's called gyrotonic, and it's also focusing on a lot of the mobility aspects of how we move our body, and it has a little bit more of a rotational spiral pattern. So I use that a lot, and that helped my spine to be more mobile. And then I do stretches and using a lacrosse ball to do some release occasionally. But then I think what I've been doing consistently to help me with flexibility would probably be yoga, like mindful yoga. So
Mm-hmm. Got it. So you were doing Pilates for a while. You started doing animal flow. How long after you started animal flow did you pick up manful yoga?
oh, that's the 2 years later, I think. I started Animal Flow 2022 and I joined you guys 2024. So yeah, so 2 years after.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it. Okay, cool. Yeah, I think I remember that because you signed up. You signed up for the members area, and then you immediately signed up for like all of the workshops we had going on too.
Mhm. Really enjoy that aspect too. So like yeah, because it's different if you have an extra pair of eyes to see how you do things, then
Hmm.
you can correct things that you couldn't see yourself. So that those are always very beneficial.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's been cool. And you actually just to highlight some of Andy's kindness, generosity, but I think also something that's kind of reflective of the manful yoga community as a whole is you actually had people. Did you have someone stay with you, or you offered to have someone stay with you, and then you took people out to barbecue one night?
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, he's like,
That's
yeah, I did that. Very humble.
the community aspect. That's what I like about this program. That's why I like about Animal Flow, and then that's why I like about Menflow Yoga is the opportunity to connect with
Hmm.
other people. It's not just like, hey, we go to class, we work out, and then we left, and there's no other common denominators or anything. It's like this program allows the members to be able to connect as individuals and cultivate relationships, and that's a very valuable aspect. So
Hmm. Yeah. So, what do you think about community, and how has that helped you? How has community helped with your workouts and just your consistency with your fitness compared to maybe some other practices or maybe some other workout programs that you've done that don't have that community aspect? How has that been helpful to you?
So I think I talked a little bit earlier about getting the inspiration from seeing other people, but then not like wanting to look exactly like somebody else. That's the community aspect. So it's like in the community, you see, like in Dean's community, especially, there are guys like Joe that can really do things that I
Yeah.
cannot really
Yeah.
do myself. But then it's like, even though I know how much some people can do certain things I cannot do, but then people are always giving very positive feedback, like good job with this pose and that. It's the support you get, no matter no matter how good or how bad you may be, but then you always get a compliment from other people, and then other people, no matter what status they are always willing to clarify things and being able to encourage others. That just at least helps me to feel like, oh, I can exercise more, and um, just because I won't be judged and I
Mm,
won't feel shameful because I don't look exactly the same as somebody else, or I missed this point of doing certain poses. It's not like that. It's everybody is celebrating everybody else's accomplishment at the moment, even though more improvements might need to be made, and we all can make more improvements anytime. So just having that environment that people can feel safe and that people can feel comfortable to be themselves and to get encouragement from each other, I think that's valuable. And so the community aspect helps me a lot with that.
okay. Cool. Well, thank you for sharing that. I'm glad that you've had a great experience with our community, and thank you for being such an active part of the community as well. I think people don't realize that, like, this is this exists because of the kind of the courage and the willingness of individuals to share their stories or to talk about, themselves. And if those individuals, if those one person, if those just few people weren't as active as they were, they wouldn't create this kind of snowball effect that would encourage other people to be, active and vocal as well. So thank you for, having the courage to share your stories.
Yeah. Mhm. And
Yeah.
another thing, like Dean, I mentioned to you and mentioned to some other people in the group, I feel like that's still, I still don't know how to explain that yet, but my cholesterol dropped. I shared about that, and that
Hmm.
was like I have that with my family history for a while, and the number was like total always above 200 for over a decade, like since I was in college. And then I was really on the edge of starting to take medications. My mom kept telling me to start taking statin, and I was
Mm.
like, I'm in my 30s, I don't want to take statin.
Yeah.
And then, but then I tried to ride more bike because the research seemed to say you need to do more aerobic type of exercise to control the cholesterol. And I rode a bike for 3 months last summer, and the total cholesterol actually increased another 20 points from riding bike. And so nothing makes sense
Wow.
to me. And so, like,
Wow.
and then the doctor just said, eat healthier. And I was already eating pretty healthy, so there's not really anything else I could change. But then I do remember, like, I did the blood test that was showing the peak total cholesterol, like about the same time I joined then flow yoga. And then I did another blood test just last month, and
Hmm.
then total dropped 100 points in 3 months.
Wow, that's
Yes.
crazy.
So that's crazy. Like medications cannot even do that. And then I don't think that can be explained by science or any known reasons. But then
Hmm.
I think it's definitely the yoga playing a very big part of it. And
Wow.
so, and then that's the reason why I feel like I would like to share about this is because Dean mentioned in his podcast and in the community a lot is that a lot of people would start to be serious in pursuing fitness when they feel like they have to do some change so that they don't face serious health consequence. It's like a
Yeah.
moment that hit them hard. But then for me, I don't really have that. But then I think my realization is a realization of hope. Like
Hmm.
there are a lot of things that I can do to take control of, even though um, family history seems to be a hard thing to battle. But then somehow everything I'm doing is making a difference, and that gave me a lot of hope that I can control a lot of the things, and that's the motivation I have to help me keep going and keep being consistent. Is to realize that I can make a lot of changes by doing the things I do.
Yeah. Wow, that sounds so empowering. I'm glad that you got to have that realization. I mean, and have that cholesterol level drop 100 points in just a few months, and that being like the big part of that. That's really cool. So, what's the next thing for you? What's the next, what's the next mountain to climb, or the next like initiative in your overall fitness that you're looking forward to?
I think um, everything I'm doing now just to be consistent with it
Hmm.
and to be because I think a lot of time people have the thought that they always have to try something new. So what's next and um, what's the newest thing we can do to work on? But then I think the most important thing is to be consistent with what we've discovered that's working.
Mm.
And so I think for me, it is that um, Pilates, yoga, animal flow, um, and all of these, while I'm already practicing, I can still improve. Might not be a night and day kind of improvement, but then range of motion can gradually increase, the control can be gradually improved,
Hmm.
uh, strength and endurance can be gradually improved. So it's minor improvement of the techniques that I can always pursue. So I would say pretty much being consistent with what I'm doing. So
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I think it's tempting to want to find like the next big thing that's going to have this dramatic impact. But more often than not, there's not that one thing. It's more so like just little improvements in, you know, a few areas that lead to the results. Well, that's really cool. I'm really glad that you figured that out and that you have hope, and that you have your plan and you're just going to keep getting better. And that's really great. Um, Thank you for sharing all of that.
yeah, thank you for the opportunity too.
Yeah. So I've got four other questions I want to ask you. These are our rapid fire questions. What is one habit, belief, or a mindset that has helped you the most with your overall health and wellness?
Okay. I think the belief is don't compete with others, compete with yourself, like to prioritize that. And
Mm,
And I do enjoy some competition, like playing games that always make things fun. So I'm not saying that it, we should avoid any forms of competitions, no. But then my point is by prioritizing competing with yourself, that make you be more aware of where you're at and are you doing any better than yesterday, and how can you be even better tomorrow compared to today. So prioritize competing with yourself versus competing with others, because if you prioritize competing with others, you might just want to look like somebody else. You might
Mm,
just want to be as fast, or you might want to surpass somebody just so that you feel like you are a better person than somebody else. And that's not necessarily good for your relationship, for your own mental health, for different aspects of your life. But then focusing on yourself, focusing on how you can be better compared to yourself yesterday, I think that can make your practicing everything more sustainable, and that can make you not worry too much about how everybody else looks like, or worried about how everybody else would look at you. So
yeah, great answer. What's one thing that you do for your health that is often overlooked or undervalued by others?
um, I think I kind of mentioned this earlier, but diversifying the
Mm,
type of exercises. So I'm not the type of person only doing running, or only going swimming, or only doing yoga, or only lifting weights. I do a little bit of many different things, and I think that served me well. And I barely ever had any injuries, like definitely no major injuries. And I might have like some soreness or some minor pinches here and there, but then those were not anything that I couldn't um, resolve myself. And the reason why I was able to avoid any major injuries like that was because I really diversified the way I move, so that I don't have any opportunity to have any overuse type of injuries.
hmm, smart. What's the most stressful part of your day to day life?
The most stressful part, I think you probably would understand this, is the rush hour traffic living in Austin and trying
Oh,
to
I
not
don't.
be
I don't drive in
late.
rush hour. I
I think
avoid it.
yeah, that's the most stressful part, I think, because I enjoy treating patients. I enjoy everything else I do outside work, like fitness and going to church, hanging out with friends. So the only stressful part would definitely be the traffic, especially congestion or traffic jams. And yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I do not like sitting in traffic, that's for sure. All right, last question. What is your best piece of advice for men who want to be healthier?
um, I think um, just take action. I would say just keep it
Hmm.
simple. So just um, if you feel like you need to move more, just start moving, because it can be easy. Just walking around the neighborhood can be as easy as that. And then if you don't know what to do, then find somebody. Like there are a lot of opportunities, a lot of communities, a lot of resources available to people now.
Hmm.
And so I feel like a lot of the limitations now, it's not really because of people not having access to things, or people like not knowing things, chances are people already know what are the things that are good for them. They just need to take action and start doing. And like I said, baby steps matters because we always wanted to take a big leap so that we make a drastic difference within a day. But then a lot of times taking small steps, even though not significant at the moment, but then over time, just being consistent baby steps would eventually be a drastic change. So, yeah, I would suggest people to just take action no matter how insignificant change they might feel like at the moment. Just take action and keep at it.
Got it. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Andy, thank you for joining me today and sharing your story, and thank you for being inspiration in the community. I'm looking forward to seeing you at the next event here.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So cool. Well, guys listening in, I hope this inspires you to be a better man. I hope this inspires you in general, and I'll be sure to put in notes about Andy and his practice in the thingy here. And if you're ever in Austin and you need physical therapy, he's a good guy to go see.
Thank you, Dean, for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, guys, I will see you on the next episode. Thanks for being here. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that interview with Andy. Links for Andy's stuff is going to be in the show notes below. So his physical therapy practice, his socials, if you want to follow him. And he's active in the Manful Yoga community on Facebook, our private group there, as well as in the members area and the app in the community section there. If you're already part of our community, I want to say thank you for being here. I hope you are being consistent with your workouts and having a great Manful Yoga experience, and also integrating yourself with the community where it feels good. If you're not already part of the Manful Yoga community, I want to invite you to join. We have a free 7-day trial to get you in, see what it looks like, check out the programs. You can learn more and sign up there at manfulyoga.com/join. I hope you're enjoying this podcast. If you want to leave a review and you haven't already, you can do that wherever you're listening, either on Apple Podcast or on Spotify. We also have video versions of the podcast on the Better Man Podcast YouTube channel. It's separate from the Manful Yoga YouTube channel, as well as in the Manful Yoga app and members area, so you can listen there. Thank you again, guys, for listening. I hope you're enjoying this. I hope to see you guys on the next episode. And as always, I hope this inspires you to be a better man.